Maria, I'm confirming I'm all set on my end.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Zainab. We're waiting on quorum.
Good morning, everyone. Still morning.
Good morning. That's right. Still morning. Dr. Gonzalez. Jessica.
Hi.
Maria, do we have quorum? Not yet.
Commissioner Rodriguez, we need one more, so I'm reaching out. We'll
Thank
be
you.
back shortly. Chair Rodriguez, we're good to go.
Great. Thank you, Maria. And hello, Chair Cifuentes. Thanks for joining us here.
Recording in progress.
Well, good morning, everyone. We will call this meeting to order. It's 11 o'clock. It's 11:02 on my clock here. And please, Maria, if you can help us with the roll call today.
Chair Rodriguez. Commissioner Valladolid. Absent. Commissioner Dow. Commissioner Gary. Absent. Commissioner O'Brien. Absent. Commissioner Saravia. Absent. Commissioner Catalina Cifuentes, ex officio.
Present.
Quorum is established.
Thank you, Maria, for that. Are there any comments on items not on the agenda? Do you have any public comments today?
We have no
Seeing none.
online public comments or none in Rancho either.
Thank you, Maria. All right. We'll go to the next item, and that's committee chair's report. Well, just want to say good morning and welcome again to this Student Impact Outreach and Communications Committee meeting. I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend. I know that everyone's feeling either relaxed or tired, but I know we're all energized about the upcoming academic year. So I just want to thank you as we start the new year for all the things that you're going to do. I see so many faces here that work in the financial aid world and the student success world. And I'll just say that in the past month, we met, as so many of you remember, we met with the Student Aid Commission and we had a retreat back in August in San Diego. And I just want to give my thanks to the CSAC team for putting such a robust agenda. To my fellow commissioners, we talked about how do we make things easier for students? How do we make things uh, easier for our adult learners, our dreamers, anyone who wants to go to college? And so we had a robust conversation about that. And I just want to thank everyone for pitching in your ideas. And I know that there's a lot of commitment across the state. So it's really great to see that as we, do our daily work. It's great to know that we are surrounded by allies and supporters as we think about how do we best serve our students. And that's what this committee meeting is all about today. So I know we're going to have only one agenda item, but I know it's going to be very robust. So I want to thank ahead of time Jessica for putting together the presentation that we'll hear about today. But before we go into that, we'd love to move us for or consideration of approval of our December 4th minutes. So I will entertain a motion and a second. Motion to approve.
Moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Dow. A second. I'll look at the CSEC team. Can I be the second?
I think it would have to be Commissioner Cifuentes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cifuentes. Motion carries. Do we need to take a roll call?
Yes, Commissioner, I can take it.
Great, thank you.
Chair Rodriguez,
Aye.
Commissioner Valladolid, absent. Commissioner Dow,
Aye.
Commissioner Gary, absent. Commissioner O'Brien, absent. Commissioner Saravia, absent. Ex oficio Catarina Cifuentes,
Aye.
the motion carries.
Thank you, Maria. So now, without any further ado, would love to pass on the floor here to our Deputy Director for Policy and Public Affairs, Jessica Dyckman. Jessica, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. I'm Jessica Deichman. I'm the new Deputy Director for Public Affairs and Policy and Public Affairs, and I'm excited to be here. And today we're here to talk about a report that was completed for the Cal SOAPs. It was completed as part of SB 737 by Senator Lemoine in 2021. So this was completed by WestEd. And so I'll go over just a couple of introduction slides, and then I'll pass it over to WestEd to do their findings, the report, and then we'll wrap it up with next steps. Next slide. So just to remind you of Cal SOAPs. So Cal SOAPs is California Student Opportunity and Access Program. So it was established in 1978, and we have about 16 different locations throughout California where we can provide extra support to students in the regions that they're at. So just kind of a visual graphic of where all of our Cal SOAPs are located. And as I mentioned, this report was completed as part of SB 737 in 2021. So I'm excited for you all to hear the recommendations by WestEd, and we'll wrap it up with some next steps here for my team. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to our presenters and they can introduce themselves.
Are we going? Should I share my screen, or are you going to continue to share screen?
I think we can go ahead and continue and just ask for next slide. So go ahead and switch to the next one, please. Thank you. Perfect.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Quay Dorsey. I work for WestEd as a senior manager. I have been working with the Cal SOAP programs for 5 years in a number of capacities through my work at WestEd, providing technical assistance for 4 years, and then leading an evaluation in this last year. I'll be presenting all the slides today, but I'm going to have Jasmine quickly present and say hello to you.
Hello, everyone. I think I saw a few of you last year in June in Sacramento when we presented on the findings of last year. I've been a part of this program or this project, excuse me, for 3 years. I supported the directors in norming the outcomes and the objectives as they are serving the students in the community. We produced a data dictionary and also supported them with professional development for the first 2 years. And then this last year, I supported Quay with this evaluation. So really excited to share the findings today.
Can we go to the previous slide really quickly before we get into it? One thing I want to say before we look at this very condensed version of our report on 5 years is that this is again, very condensed version of the report that we wrote, the findings that we found. I think this serves a very targeted purpose, and we are an advocate for that very targeted purpose, but I also, just for the integrity of our research, I need to say that this is not a full, encompassing, detailed report, but we have provided that to CSAC, and I'm sure it could be made available to you all. So now we can go to the next slide, please. Again, I want to thank Jessica for inviting us here. Again, I'm Quay Dorsey, and I'll be walking through our evaluation findings. To ground our discussion, I'll start with how we approached the study. We drew on a few data sources. The first was the LACI service participation records. What LACI is a database that all the CalSOAPs use in order to store their participation data, to sort of say who participated, what they did with the program, whether it was an advising event or something more targeted for that student. We also use web grants data to understand sort of FAFSA and CADA completion and participation. We also had the consortium complete outcome maps, which sort of mapped what their programs set out to do and what they hoped their outcomes were to be. And we also did what's called reverse site visits, where virtually the sites came to us to sort of answer questions about what was happening at their sites. And we conducted a student voice study of 54 students representing diverse demographics across the state. And our evaluation centered around 4 big questions: how CalSOAP influences financial aid access, student confidence and readiness, knowledge and skills, and what practices are linked to the strongest outcomes. Next slide. First, let's look at overall reach. So our study shows that CalSOAP is expanding across the state, reaching more seniors each year. So from about 51,000 in 2022 to over 57,000 in 2024. Importantly, FAFSA and CADA completion rates among CalSOAP students consistently outpaced non-participants. And by 2024, nearly 67% of CalSOAP seniors completed their applications compared to less than half of non-participants. Next slide. Our first major finding highlights financial aid access. We found a dramatic increase in FAFSA and CADA completion, especially for students who receive multiple services. Over half of the CalSOAP programs outperform the statewide average, showing the program's unique impact. Next slide, please. So next we'll talk about reach and equity. CalSOAP has expanded to more schools and grade levels, though most of the activity and by design, is concentrated in 12th grade. We did not directly ask this the question if no one directly said to us it's because of legislation. However, we have been working with the CalSOAP programs for 5 years, and we were a part of the decision to sort of help guide them towards not going to other grades because of what the legislation said. So that's an important note here for a number of reasons. And a limitation that we found is that early engagement is inconsistently tracked across the sites. So it was hard to even measure the impact on the younger students because it wasn't even tracked. And again, that's mostly by design. We also identified some best practices. So one-on-one advising is widespread and highly effective amongst the CASO programs. So personalized nudging, such as a specific text or email reminder, is impactful whenever it's used consistently. But it was not. We found that it was not consistently used. We also saw strong evidence for barrier reduction strategies, things like bilingual forms, providing transportation, or using Zoom, for example. And while financial incentives were less common due to funding limits, they showed a powerful effect when they were available, whether that was through scholarships or whether that was through helping with supporting college applications. Those proved to be helpful, particularly for the students farthest from access. Next slide, please. Confidence and readiness are sort of uneven across student groups. So students planning for four-year or CTE pathways showed the most confidence amongst the council of students, while students who were planning for community college transfer felt less supported and also showed just less understanding of what their process looked like. Trusted adult encouragement made a big difference, but we also noted mentorship gaps, especially for peer or near peer role models, which is really, really important per the research and our experience for students who are farthest from access, particularly first generation students who have less knowledge access. Students with the highest needs, so foster youth, English learners, first generation students, they would benefit the most from more consistent social emotional support. Next slide, please. Thank you. So finally, knowledge and skills. Advising and workshops were consistent across consortia, but hands-on sessions like essay boot camps and mock applications had the strongest outcomes, but were not seen as much. We also found early and multi-year engagement correlated with better enrollment outcomes, and that family engagement built trust wherever it was emphasized. I want to talk a little bit about the student voice study, because this study brought a few findings to life. So students told us that they want to start college and career planning earlier, and they asked for mentorship opportunities from teachers, peers, and alumni, as well as practical skill building like budgeting and networking. And the students also stressed the importance of accountability, encouragement, near peer relationships, and interactive workshops. Next slide. So in the end, and these are we have these more detailed and have a lot of content to add to these, but well, this at a high level, we developed six key. Well, we sort of we have six recommendations based on what we found. And the first is to institutionalize site level reflection, quarterly huddles and self-assessments that sort of help staff identify what's working and what's needed, or what sort of needs adjustment. The second would be to strengthen continuous improvement cycles statewide. So that's at the CSEC level for the directors, adopting sort of or a plan, do, study, act model, sort of to create a rhythm for testing, learning, and scaling the work. Third is the standardized equity data in LCI, so that every site can see how different groups of students are being served, and so that we can actually do some targeted work. Currently, the way that the data is tracked, it is hard to understand differences between any specific demographics. We can sort of only sort by GPA or completion rates, or gender, which is in this space not as useful for a number of reasons. Fourth, enhance director-led staff training with a focus on advising skills and cultural responsiveness. Fifth, expand family engagement by developing multilingual toolkits and parent councils, and a number of other sort of more engaging events for families to participate. Our research over the years and in our other careers have sort of has shown how family engagement in the college transition process or the high school to work transition process is vital for that fresh young mind to sort of make smart decisions in which going next. And finally, broaden earlier outreach, especially through 9th through 11th graders. We did find that at least a program was working with 7th graders, but sort of to build a stronger pipeline before senior year. We know from this work and many of our other projects and eval work that the knowledge gap is deep, and the earlier you get students and families involved in the knowledge, the better it is for the outcomes at senior year. Not only do we see that in national public data, we literally see it in your CalSub data for where it's happening, the completions are higher. Jessica, this is you, right? I'm not talking about your next steps, right?
Correct.
That's
Yep.
you?
So
Okay. Thank you all so much.
yeah, and I just wanted to emphasize, thank you, Quay. This is a 100+ page report. So we condensed it down to some nice, really digestible slides so that they're easy to relate to and easy to see next options. But if you are curious, the report is fascinating. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of useful items. So I hope you can appreciate that we wanted to make it digestible and actionable. So that's why you see the condensed slideshow on their large report. So thank you very much for the presentation there. So just to come back and wrap up here, our next steps. So we have 3 things that my team and I really are going to focus on for the next year. And the first is, he mentioned before, is the early outreach. How do we get to kids that are not in 12th grade when they're about to graduate, but how do we get to them when they first entered high school or maybe shortly before? We're looking for new ways to partner with school districts. So definitely something that's on my radar as I roll into this position. I ask for a little bit of grace as I catch up and look for opportunities for my team to expand, but certainly I think that's the number one thing we got out of this report is that we can't be waiting until they're seniors. We need to be having engagement early and often throughout their whole high school career. And then the next is also using data. So we have some data available in, through our data portal that shows the lowest performing school districts and the lowest performing counties. So that gives us a unique opportunity to reach out to the school districts in those areas that are falling behind and to partner them directly with the CalSOPs in their areas. So we're certainly going to be looking to provide standardized data to the CalSOPs in the area saying these are the 3 school districts that could really use the most help. So that way they're able to focus their limited resources on the school districts that are perhaps having a tougher time. And then the third item that we're going to focus on is the family-centered events. So this can look as easy as, changing our flyers to say, Cash for College, come here, this date to say, bring your family. All of you, please come learn about the financial options available for you, the student, and also for the parent to support the student. Because we've heard from, not just in this report, but other people as we've been gathering information that sometimes the parents are the barrier. Sometimes they don't understand that they actually can get aid and it actually will be paid for. And they want them to just go to work and start earning money for the family. So we need to really look for ways to engage the family early and often in the whole financial aid process. So those are the 3 steps that my team and I are going to be implementing over the next year. And then next slide. And then I just wanted to end on this, that CalSOPs are equity drivers. It's proven not only through the report, but also through just student testimonials and getting to know as I've gone into this role, what CalSOPs do. They do drive equity. They do reach out to students that really need that extra hand, and they actually they need the extra help to complete their applications. And it does make a difference. It does increase our FAFSA and CADA completion rates. So I think, you know, it is a tough budget year, and we are in a unique situation this year where we're going to be trying to find things to do that aren't necessarily gigantic asks on the legislature, but it is important that we advocate for the CalSOAPs because they do make a difference to families and students, and they really are needed in the areas where the students are falling behind and aren't able to complete their applications at the rates that we need and want them to. So just wanted to focus, like I said, I recommend at least glancing at the report if you have a chance. It is quite long, but it is really good. And it does have a lot of useful information that my team and I will be using throughout the next year. So with that, I wanted to go to the last slide and just open it up for questions while I have our guests from WestEd here as well. Oh, Quay has a question.
No, I don't have. I have just a quick
Okay.
comment that
Sure.
the first 13 pages of the report is an executive summary. So the 100-page part is very long, but in the first 13 pages, you'll get the gist, and it was even more detailed than what we just presented here, including all 20-something of the detailed findings.
Thank you for that. That is a good point. So if you're going to read something, maybe the first 13 pages is what you read.
There we go. Well, thank you, Kwai, Jasmine, and Jessica for that report, and thank you for condensing and making it very actionable, like you said. If the public does have questions about where to see the full report, where can they go for that?
I'm going to kick that to Maria. I believe it's posted with our materials, but I want to verify.
Commissioner Rodriguez, we haven't posted it, but we will. A big part of our next steps is really being able to work with the CalSOAPs and our RCOs. So while the evaluation was on CalSOAPs, there is so much here that we can also implement with our RCOs and all of our partners. And I expect that to be a full commission meeting item. Why? Because the reality is, to do this work, we don't just get to add new workload. We get to share best practices, empower our RCOs and our CalSOAPs with professional development. But the reality is, the bigger ask is, how do we get them resources? That's philanthropy, and that's through our state budget process. I've had a chance to sit down with Quay and Jasmine and walk through that full report. And I have to tell you, their longer presentation is incredibly impressive. For me, what I took from that is really how we could work with the CalSOAP. So we'll absolutely post it and add it to this item, but I think the longer report is really better fit for what we do with it, right? And I would want to bring in the CalSOAPs and the RCOs for that conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, and appreciate that added context there, and glad that it's going to be useful on the field, but definitely kudos to the great work that our CalSOAPs and our RCOs are doing, and the team, because it, like you said, it takes all of us to do this kind of work. So it can't just be, here's a report, now go do it. We all have to do it together. I do want to open it up to my fellow commissioners on the committee, and those that may be ex officio as well. So I will stop here and entertain any thoughts or comments for the group. Chair Cifuentes.
Like, wait, I hate the new Zoom. I'm struggling to find the raise hand. Sorry about that. So wait, I just want to say thank you to the WestEd team for the work, and with you, Commissioner Rodriguez, just echo the commitment from the CalSOAP team members and how the work they're doing and how creative they're getting to find resources, to provide services. I think when you look at the work they're doing, they're filling in so many of the gaps that we have in our schools and our districts. But one of the things I was thinking, and I can say it's like I experienced it myself here, is just the cost of what it costs to run these programs. And I think, something as simple, let me give you an example. We have our CalSOAP College Success coaches. After they work over 1,000 hours, and we want these veteran coaches that have been with us since their freshman year of college, after they work over 1,000 hours, they start to earn these benefits that make them a lot more cost than just the hourly wage, right? And we're trying to stay competitive with the the market for our food. I mean, when you think about someone that handles fast food, I think these coaches for us in our county, we value them just as much, and we're doing everything we can to pay them accordingly. So I just think like those are those pieces. I know Dr. Gonzalez is working on it, but I think knowing that the cost to do business for these programs is just it's changed so much that I think people don't realize out there, legislators, all the groups. So just something I know that wasn't a part of the report, but I think that's that fiscal impact of what does it cost to get these results that we're getting, that return on investment for some of these regions. Like I think of Los Angeles, I think of San Diego, those growths you're seeing. I know those CalSOAPs are the power, some of the power behind those changes and improvements. So I don't know. I mean, so many layers of that comment, but I just think like it's really we can't operate the I mean the cost to hire these coaches and the trainings and I would just say another thing I would like to consider. We talked about it in just organic conversation when we had the CSAC team. We've already done our fall educator workshops here in Riverside County of how do we some things, some of the regions are, you know, they're unique. California is so different and depending on what zip code you're in, but some of the trainings that we do as CSAC, how do we norm or systematize that all CalSOAP coaches receive this training, especially around FAFSA and California Dream Act completion. So they came and they spent a whole day with our CalSOAP success coaches before they did the educator workshop. Usually we would just send them to the educator workshop, but this year they did a day long. And a shout out to Victoria and John and the team for doing that. But I think it opened up that a possibility, and I don't know if it came up in the report of just, you know, that it's how important to onboard them consistently and be able to say that all CalSOAP coaches in the state of California are trained when it comes to financial aid and California Dream Act on this way. So I don't know how that can come up in the research report, but I'm excited to read the report and just thank you, both of you, for validating the amazing work they're doing.
Thank you, Chair Cifuentes. Any comments from the team here? Any responses to that? If not, we will go to the next
I
one.
would just say, anecdotally, because we've worked with CalSOAPs for a bit now. In the first 2 years, there was a nice investment into our work, so we got to learn a lot. And I think the last point that Kathleen just made is important in terms of seeing, like, there are the programs that we are seeing succeeding the most have outside resources supporting them. So that there is a correlation. We did not look into that because there was not a we look more at student outcomes, but there is certainly a correlation to what we were seeing in Long Beach, Los Angeles, Riverside. Like there were some correlation to that for sure.
Thank you for that. I see Commissioner Dow's hand up. Commissioner Dow.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez, from the back of the room over here. I don't know how to make myself closer to the
We
screen.
trust that it's you.
It's me, I promise. Thank you again, also to Wested for the report. I do look forward to reading it thoroughly. I have two questions. One is how did you assess how CalSOAP is working in coordination with so many of the other college access providers in the regions? You know, I know there are a number of different organizations that provide a lot of these same services. How are they making determinations about, you know, what's really in our competitive advantage versus what, you know, SoCal Can is doing versus what Inner City Struggle is doing, what so many, I think we're so lucky in Los Angeles and LA County to have this real wraparound network of college access providers that are supplementing what our school districts are doing. I know that doesn't exist everywhere, but I do think about, you know, how are we making sure that we're leveraging those networks and maybe then freeing up some resources to go to those areas that do not have those more sophisticated historical support? So that's my first question. And then I'll ask my second one after.
Yeah, Jasmine, I'm going to take a stab at this question. First, I'll say we did not explicitly look at that. And to my last comment about the success we saw in LA, we also believe that it is, again, anecdotally related to that as well. The sort of the number of touches that students have with different kinds of college access. And that is different in smaller regions. And we, again, anecdotally, we see that as well. We didn't go deep on any of those things. I think you'd be excited to hear, though, to know with our new contracts with you all, with the council program and CSAC, our focus is understanding partnership models and understanding how they partner with students and how they partner with how they develop their students. Like, what is their program model? Like, where they get their students from? How they decide that they are their students? And because we know from, again, working with them, there are pockets of, like, some are using a cohort, some are not necessarily walk-in, but like more closer to that. And then when we sort of solidly identified those groups in the CalSOAP, this was a baseline evaluation. We sort of set up the CalSOAPs to track data in a uniform and modern way in order to get them to us to be able to do a year-long evaluation that we did in the past school year. So it took 4 years to get them to that place. So this was just a baseline. And we also know, and we can hear it from you, that you find it important. It is important to understand now the program models that we have sort of this initial sort of understanding of their program data. So now we can see, okay, now how might this data be, how might this look different if I say you're using program model A? What is that saying? Because then we can even help further the conversation more about specific practice that is happening amongst the CalSOAP with what is currently available, and which could possibly free up resources and help people think about different ways to partner. But that is actually our focus this year, but on purpose. It took some time to get here.
And you had a second one, Commissioner Dell?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I just, again, want to reiterate, I think it's really important for us to, understand the landscape in which our CalSOAPs are operating so that there is a maximizing of the resources that are there, that we're not reaching out to the same students that maybe are being taken care of by Puente, that are taken care of by, College Summit, College Track, all of these amazing programs that we're being somewhat strategic. We have such a large mission, but somewhat strategic to those students who may have 0 touch points, right? To be that. So I'm really glad to hear the direction and look forward to staying in touch. My next question is very specific to one of the slides that you had up around finding 4. It says student confidence and readiness, and it's the last bullet that says students with the highest need more consistent socio-emotional support. Tell me what you mean by that finding, and what is, I don't think about our CalSOAP team members as delivering socio-emotional support in an official way. So I'm curious about just the kind of what's behind that finding, and where do our CalSOAP team members find themselves in that space?
Absolutely. So this was related to a best practice, and then questions were asked in the student study. So let me walk you through the methodology here. So what we didn't talk about today is the grounding of our evaluation with best practice research in the outcomes that CalSOAP hope to produce. So we looked from a lens of what are those practices, and we found 12. What are those practices that move the needle that CalSOAP is trying to move? what we sort of said to everyone else who got the full presentation was that where we are coming from is a view of these are the best practices for actually moving the needle on college access. So everything that we look for these practices. One of the things we looked for was student confidence and readiness. And in the student study, what we found were students found sort of more procedural knowledge from and more so just either informational or procedural knowledge from CalSOAPs. But that's only part of the necessity. What is also needed is like the mentorship, near peer relationships, intentional, empathetic sort of a way that students can feel the sort of like you attending to them as a person more, and we sort of asked about that in our student study. Our student study lead is not on the call, so I do not want to say anything that I can't speak to. But I know that that is the sort of the basis of where it came from. So it's not to say that CalSOAPs are supposed to be like directly affecting social emotional skills in a way that like a program for social emotional skills with a curriculum does, but sort of actions related to mentorships, near peer relationships, intentionally developing intentionally developing confidence through how they do programming, that sort of thing.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know who's calling on people, but I see Dr. Daisy.
I'll just unmute Commissioner Rodriguez. I found the same slide really helpful and really interesting, Commissioner Dow, particularly because a lot of the best practices on confidence and readiness are really how we not just serve K through 12, but I noticed on there your comment about transferring community colleges, Quay and Jasmine. I found that interesting for two reasons. One, because we asked CalSOAPs and RCOs to operate on the K through 12 side, but now with dual enrollment, a bigger emphasis on CTE and adult learners earlier, I really see an opportunity for CalSOAPs to bring entire families together, right? We don't just serve students at the high school level when they become seniors, but it becomes a relationship, a trusting long-term relationship with them and their families. So I found that slide really helpful to help us understand how we take our current infrastructure to the next level.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Can you hear me, by the way? Yes, great. All right, Chair Cifuentes.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that, what you just shared, Dr. Gonzalez, and just in general, what I found when I read that, I knew it, for me, it hit home, because what happens with you're dealing with this population, it turns into more than just getting your FAFSA done. It turns into basic needs. It turns into helping them get attorneys. There's so many other layers we have to go through just to get to the FAFSA part of it. You know, I lost my parents are in probate, just other pieces that come with these populations that we serve. And sometimes it is getting them resources like additional counseling support. And so I think we've had to treat, we try to teach our coaches, when you get to this point, that's when you go get a counselor or you go get an administrator. That's not your lane. Like, that I know Commissioner Dow, like, hey, we're not giving, you're not a counselor. I have some future school counselors. They're in their PPS program right now, but you're not a counselor yet. But I do think we've had to give them opportunities to connect them to just community resources. And so when I saw that, I knew exactly that it just naturally comes up in the conversation when I give a fall shoot that doesn't even have their social security number and we can't get a hold of a social worker. Just basic things like that come up. So just thank you for highlighting that, because on top of that, it means multiple conversations. It's never a one and done. It's never just a cash for college a night. It's like, okay, jump on a Zoom. We're going to have to help you a few more times. So I think it's important to share, but so much of that happens as we're supporting these students.
Great points. And I see that Jasmine, her hand is up. Jasmine.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I had 2 points. Well, I had one, now I have two. Thank you, Chair Cifuentes. I think the outreach piece is something that has been lifted up with the directors and the staff that supports the directors. And so that is an area of focus that I think the directors have decided to take on because there's so many touches that happen in between the touches, before the touches, that actually get qualified as data points, right? And so how do they present a holistic picture of what it looks like to serve the communities that they're in? That's one. But they are aware, and so hopefully this will support them in their work. The other thing before we move off of the topic of the program models is something that we did here in between the points that we were collecting is the role that CalSOAPs play in the other access providers or campuses, their financial aid knowledge. And so we may be able to touch it in this scope or in a future scope, but there is something to be said on the role that the CalSOAPs play in the understanding of financial aid knowledge in their region. So not just with students and family impact, but other serving adults in the region. And so that if we can fit it in this scope, great. But to Quay's point, we're going to try to figure out what are the different service models and then be able to triangulate the data that we've collected against that information. So if we can figure out the subtext of their role of college knowledge, financial aid knowledge in this year, we will. If not, it will be in a future scope. But there's a lot of subtext that we got in between the data points that will be worthwhile unpacking in the upcoming years.
Thank you, Jasmine. Can you hear me? Yes, I can see my box. My mic has been acting up today. Any other questions?
Chair Rodriguez, I would just remind that we need to call for public comment on this also.
Thank you. We will get there. Yes, almost there. But I just want to just reflecting on the presentation. This reminds me of an article that I read recently, and it was about student voices and what is it that they need to succeed. And when you interview the students and you interview the adults, you know, sometimes the adults are like, well, the resources are there. You know, we have brochures, we have flyers, and we have everything right there for students to get. And what the students tell us, or in this report, not the one that you all created, Wested, another, the one that I read, the student said, what it takes is for a caring adult. And that's a connection that we need from the student to that brochure. You need that caring adult in the middle. And I think that's what Chair Cifuentes and all of us have been talking about. And I really do appreciate the finding around mentorship, because I think we have that, the concept of what a mentor could be. And I think we all have the great intentions of being that mentor to the students that are looking up to us for guidance and help. I would love maybe some further discussion, maybe at another report, is how the high school principals are leveraged as trusted messengers. I know the teachers, I know that the counselors are outnumbered by the number of students, but just high school principals, how are they stepping up to the plate to share this college knowledge with their students, given all their other pressures and priorities that they have on their plate? How are they adopting that mentorship model? So, oh, it looks like we have a hand up, but that was my point. Commissioner Dell, go ahead.
Chair Rodriguez, just I think building on that point is something to potentially look into. Executive Director Gonzalez, I know that Brad Phillips with the Institute for Evidence-Based Change launched and has worked closely with several community colleges in California and other states around this whole model called Caring Campus. And that's the whole premise, is how does every adult on a campus, how are they trained to be a connection, even if it's a very simple question of, I need directions, or I'm in this position. How do I act as an ambassador? How am I a warm, friendly hug? And it's something sometimes it's not intuitive, right, to people in their own roles. They don't see that connection. as a mentor, as a leader on campus, but how do you really transform institutions so that every person on campus sees their role? And I think they've got a really great model, and something that maybe we can take some learnings there and think about with the institutions we work with.
Thank you, Commissioner Dow. And I think we're all writing notes as you were speaking. Any final comments from the West Ed team or SIOC?
Thank you for having us.
Great presentation. Thank you all. Any final comments from our commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I will open it up to public comment on this item.
There are
Seeing
no
none, I
public
believe-
comments, Chair
Thank you,
Rodriguez.
Maria. Appreciate it. Let's go to item number 6. Thank you again for that wonderful presentation. Looking forward to more of that. Item number 6 is new business to be considered at a future meeting. Commissioners, any items that you wish for this committee to see at the next time we meet? You gave us a lot to think about. So hearing none, we will move on to the next item, which is adjournment. And we're going to give you 10 more minutes to your time. And so we're going to call for an adjournment at 11:50 unless there's any other business. But assuming that there's no other business, we'll just adjourn. All right. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.